So I watched the pilot to GameOverse, and I'm gonna be honest. I don't think since the Amazing Digital Circus have I seen a Glitch Productions pilot that really like turned me on to the show. That I was like, wow, that's actually I actually really want to see more like right now this second. Yeah, it was really good. I really liked GameOverse. GameOverse at first I thought was gonna be like some other pilots, not necessarily by Glitch Productions, but I feel like there's been a lot of pilots in the past like 3-4 years where they throw a lot at you. And like they either throw a lot at you or not a whole lot at you, and either it's overwhelming or underwhelming. I do think GameOverse really strikes that perfect like balance, because at first I was kind of scared because it begins with like a flashback of the main character's past, and so I had the concern that I wasn't fully gonna understand everything. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Gaslight District. I really liked the pilot for the Gaslight District, but I will say one criticism I have of the pilot is that I feel like I didn't fully understand the world of the Gaslight District. I kind of wish there was just a teeny bit more explaining on how this world worked in the Gaslight District. But for GameOverse, although I was initially kind of confused in the first 5 minutes, and also, by the way, I would like to clarify, before I watched the pilot, I did not watch any trailers or nothing else really related to the show. I just knew that, it was a show created by Rubber Ross, and there's going to be a few Game Grump cameos, and that was it. That was literally the only thing I knew about the show. So with that said, absolutely not knowing really anything about GameOverse and just watching the pilot for what it was, I was really pleased with it. The 2D animation was freaking amazing. Love the brightness of the colors, because this whole episode mainly focuses on like a beach swimming-esque video game. I really love the whole concept of they have to make the heroes lose. From what I caught from it, because as of recording this, I literally just finished watching the pilot right now. I love the whole they have to like prevent the heroes from winning the video game, and they basically have to make the bad guys win. I am curious how in later episodes they're gonna do that, depending on if it's a more serious video game world, like I don't know, like Final Fantasy VII, like how they're gonna do something like that. But the first episode, it's it's a silly Banjo-Kazooie-esque kind of a world. So I just really love that's the whole concept and premise of the show. Like I wasn't expecting a show like this to have for the most part, when you really look at it, a simple premise of just like, we have to do blank and blank, and it's just, we have to make sure the hero doesn't win, and if they win, the world gets destroyed. I don't remember if they explained why the world gets destroyed, or that was just something that was left unexplained, but I'm sure they'll probably be explained as the show goes on. And then the villains who are trying to make the hero of whoever the game world is also pretty cool. I don't know, I just like that contrast. I really, I think it's really neat. I haven't seen this show, but it reminds me of another show back in like 2017 Nickelodeon was doing. What was the show? It was, I don't remember the name of the show. Editor, put the name on screen, please. Thank you very much, editor. But it kind of reminds me of that show. That show also had a very similar premise of, each episode, the main characters go into a different video game world, and it varies, and they have to, do something to that video game world. It also kind of reminds me a little bit of Kingdom Hearts, a little bit, where our heroes go into different worlds, and, these worlds vary from really serious to really silly and not serious at all, and they have to save all these worlds. Literally, I guess you can make a lot of comparisons to Kingdom Hearts with this show, and I really like that. I don't know, maybe I'm an easy to please kind of a guy, but like I just think the premise of the show is really neat. I'm like, I really want to see what they're gonna how they're gonna, how that's gonna go in later episodes, where I'm like, oh, where are you gonna go with this premise in later episodes? I was really pleased by this pilot. I really can't remember another Glitch Productions pilot, with the exception of the Amazing Digital Circus, that immediately just hooked me onto the show. I think it's only Digital Circus and this so far that really got me excited, like 5-7 minutes into the pilot. Obviously, Glitch is still a lot of really good shows under their belt, but this one did really get me excited, which is funny because, this and Digital Circus both have the video game aesthetic. And also, it was just kind of cool, the cast. I didn't know that Michael Cusack was in this pilot until, his character, Snappers, I believe, appeared in this. I feel like when Michael Cusack is in something, it's kind of like he always does, like, the very, like, a really mad, aggressive, like, Australian kind of a thing.
I was down in the bloody mines for 14 hours today!
Which I think at this point, because he's been in so many, like, other projects, whether that be on TV or on the internet, it's kind of expected. But no, it really was a treat to see Michael Cusack in this pilot. And also Aaron Hansen, which was another person, which was one person. I was aware of Aaron Hansen being in this. I thought he was pretty cool in this pilot. But no, I am really curious where they're gonna go with this pilot, where they're gonna go with this show. I probably will go on the Glitch store to buy their merch. I will support you. I will support your Kitty Cat show.
Also, one thing I thought was cool as I was looking at the store, This guy briefly appears in the pilot, but we don't know what his deal is. I'm assuming he's on the side of the good guys because I really like this shirt where it's the good guy characters versus the bad guy characters. So I just want to say I thought that was kind of cool. We're getting a little bit of extra lore in this merchandise, but also the shirt is really cool. You can just stand next to your friend that has the other one. I just wanted to call how cool this shirt was.
And one thing that really shocked me after I watched the pilot when I was doing a little bit more research onto the show is Grant Kirkhope. Grant Kirkhope did the music for this. Because as I was watching it with my sister. I noticed some of the music. It reminded me of what is that level called from Banjo-Kazooie? It reminded me of Treasure's Cove from Banjo-Kazooie. It had like a similar sound to it. Editor, please do like a comparison so people know what I'm talking about. And I was like, man, this sounds a lot like Banjo-Kazooie music. And then I looked in the credits, and Grant Kirkhope, sorry, I'm stumbling over myself because I'm just so shocked they got Grant Kirkhope for this show.
I'm Grant Kirkhope. I don't rely on luck. Cause my work goes. Grant Kirkhope. Welcome to the 20 to the 50.
And you can kind of tell because Grant Kirkhope definitely has like a specific way of doing music. I feel like Grant Kirkhope, and maybe it's just for the pilot, or maybe he's probably going to do music for later episodes. But definitely, the only time I really noticed his music was when they're in the silly little underwater video game world, where it definitely sounded like Treasure Trove Cove from Banjo-Kazooie, which I don't know, I just thought that was a nice touch. It would probably be cool. I can definitely see the crew behind the show definitely getting like other famous video game composers. Maybe we'll get a Toby Fox cameo in this show if they do if they go into like an Undertale, like an Earthbound-esque kind of a world. I can totally see them meeting up with other famous video game composers to compose music for like different worlds, which again, I've already said it multiple times in this video, but I really am excited. Even the credits kind of hint at that, like what other worlds they may be able to go to. That in the original teaser, which I just also recently just watched, and I didn't see the teaser back when it initially came out in December, when the world that I forget his name, the Barney the dinosaur character that he originates from, him being like this like point and click, like, oh, let's learn how to spell kind of a world, which I thought was kind of neat. I kind of wish they put that bit from the teaser into the show just to give a little bit more background and where that dinosaur guy came out. But it's already a teaser. Like which I saw the teaser after I watched the pilot. So if you saw the teaser, or if you're gonna see it after you see the show, I guess that's your background, how they met Mr. Barney the dinosaur guy. I believe voiced by Aaron Hansen. But I don't know what else to say about the show. I know we're probably gonna have to wait like maybe a year until we see another one. I guess Glitch only has like 2D animated shows under their belt. This and Knights of Guinevere. Weren't they partnering with the Lackadaisy people? As of recording this, I haven't seen Lackadaisy yet, but I probably will. But I feel like they're also teaming up with the Lackadaisy people, so I guess that technically would be 3 shows under their belt. But yeah, I feel like now, which is pretty cool, that they're starting to do a little bit more 2D animated shows, which I understand why initially they were doing CG. Because with CG, everything's already pre-rendered, and most people compare CG to puppetry, so you just have to move the model around. And with 2D animation, you have to constantly redraw the character over and over again if you're going to change a pose, or maybe not have to redraw them if you're doing a facial expression or something like that. But I think it's neat that they're doing a lot of really cool 2D animation. I don't know what else to say about the show. There's just so many like really small details about the show that I really liked. One of the villains, her name is Misinformation. You'll say whatever you want about that joke. I think that's hilarious that her name is Misinformation. There's just like a stupid double meaning to that I just kind of find funny. But I don't know what else to say. You'll go watch the show. I think it's great. I think the pilot's great. I really can't wait to see more. One bit that I thought was kind of cool is when, they tell the characters of this world that, their world's going to be destroyed if they win. Everything just freezes. It becomes really gray and creepy, but the only people that don't freeze is, the people that do not belong into that world. That's just a tiny little detail that I kind of thought was cool. That's like one moment in the pilot where I went, oh shit. But yeah, besides that, it's a great pilot. But say in the comments, what did you think of GameOverse? Were you as excited as I am about the show? Do you think, do you think it's going to be the next great big series out of Glitch Productions, or did you think it was worser? Or did you think it was worse than a snowman kidnapping children? Tell me in the comments. And I don't know. I don't know what else to say at the end of this. Feel free to watch another video. Actually, do not watch another video on this channel again. Do not immediately click off this video.
So